Welcome back to We Need to Talk, ladies and gentlemen. Joe Tomlinson, it's his birthday week. He's now 29. He's getting on. If I was a manager, I'd be looking to possibly move him on. Maybe look towards the future. If he's asking for a year extension or a couple of years for his contract, I'd be thinking maybe not quite worth it. Maybe not worth the money. However, that's why he is not here and I am instead. And today we're going to be looking at how your club's most expensive signing this season is getting on. Now, I've got 6 different categories here, going from superstar, good, okay, poor, flop, and too soon. Obviously, some teams' most expensive signings this season will have joined in January, and you'll see why I've put the too soon category in for that later on. But without further ado, let's get into it. So we're doing this alphabetically, of course, and we have to kick it off with none other than top of the alphabetical table and top of the Premier League table. It is none other than Arsenal Football Club. And when you look at their most expensive signing this season, it is none other than Gabriel Jesus. The guy that signed Gabriel Jesus from Manchester City for £45 million. And when you look at that fee and how they've been getting on this season, it's quite impressive. Obviously, Jesus has actually been out of action since Arsenal have returned from the World Cup. He's been missing about 3 months of football. And actually, on the day of recording this, he's back in training for their Europa League game. 5 goals and 5 assists in just 14 appearances. Now, I think some people will say, actually, maybe those numbers aren't quite the level for the category I'm going to put him in, because I'm putting him straight into superstar. He really has done so much for this team. And I think whilst I think those numbers are pretty strong, he does so much as well for getting other people involved. I think Arsenal have coped really well, actually. It has to be said, without him. Obviously, Eddie Nketiah has done a fantastic job up front. But Gabby Jesus, when he is on that pitch for Arsenal, he makes them even stronger, which is frightening to think about, considering how many games are left and he's coming back into the squad. Our next team is none other than Aston Villa, and their most expensive signing was none other than Diego Carlos in the summer. They signed him for £26 million. And let's get straight to it. He has to go into the too soon category, I'm afraid. I mean, the guy's only played 2 games. And in his second game, he got an Achilles rupture that has kept him out for 28 games since then. It's quite bad. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how Unai Emery uses him, whether he might go to a 3 at the back formation or which defender he takes out of his 4 at the back formation. He's been loving Mings and Konsa so far. But overall, there's not much we can say, really. 2 games is too harsh to criticise him. He got an injury. It's unfortunate. And who knows, maybe when he's back, he might come back into the side. We can do this again at the end of the season. On to Bournemouth now, and their most expensive signing was Ilya Zabanyai, who, again, let's keep it quick, has to go into too soon. I mean, the guy's literally not played for Bournemouth yet. They bought him for £24 million. He has been injured, but he's not played a single minute yet. So it is quite literally why the category is there. It's too soon. Their next most expensive one was Ouattara, who's obviously had a brilliant first half of the season in Ligue 1, has played 6 games for Bournemouth so far, got 2 assists. He looks like a really exciting prospect. But again, he wasn't most expensive. It was none other than Zabanyai. On to Brentford now, who obviously have been flying this season in the Premier League. And again, we're in for a hat-trick, another too soon. Kevin Schrader is actually on loan, but will be their most expensive signing. They've got an obligation to buy. They brought him in January for £22 million, a loan for the rest of the season, then an obligation to buy. But he's just played 65 minutes. It's too soon to really criticise him or to give him his plaudits and to put him in a fair ranking of this table. You will notice that a lot of teams have actually brought in a lot of players where maybe it's a little bit too soon or something's gone against them, like an injury. But I think after this, there might be like 1 or 2 more, and we do really get into the juicy stuff. For instance, Brighton and Hove Albion, what a name, and what a team they've been this season. They really have been shocking the world. But their most expensive signing in the summer, this was Estupiñán for £14.9 million. An absolute steal. He really has been. I mean, he's played 17 games so far this season. He's got 3 assists from the majority of playing left back. I mean, he came in as a replacement for Cucurella, who's been obviously at Chelsea, may have just had his best game, but was really important to Brighton last campaign. Slotted in perfectly, done a fantastic job. What he does really allow is Mitoma to flourish down that left wing too. Links up fantastically well with him, has been brilliant for Brighton defensively. I think overall, I'm not going to be putting him in superstar, because I think superstar is a category for really like the creme de la creme, the cream of the crop. But he is going in good. He is going in good. For that price, less than £15 million to get obviously what they got for 60 plus for Cucurella. It's just Brighton being Brighton, isn't it? On to Chelsea now. One of the big boys. Enzo Fernandez was Chelsea's most expensive signing this season. Obviously, there were quite a few of them, but he topped the list at £106.8 million. And look, you might go for me here. You might go for me. But he's going in too soon. He's going in too soon. Let's be honest, realistically, he's played 7 games so far this season. I mean, in those 7 games, he's already combined had over 500 touches for Chelsea, more than any other Chelsea player in the squad, showing already how crucial he is becoming to the Chelsea system. He's basically kind of slotted in where Jorginho is playing, and Jorginho is taking quite a lot of touches, probably the most for Chelsea as well. So you can see how he has replicated that. And look, if I'm being honest, if like, okay, I do believe it is too soon. If I was being honest and where to put him in this table, I'd probably go and stick him in okay. I don't think he has lit up the game so far. I think he's got obviously a long period of adaptation, getting used to the side. The side is constantly changing. Chelsea have now moved to a 3 at the back formation, where actually his past 2 games have probably been some of his best, playing next to Kovacic, maybe slightly further forward as well. Obviously, a win against Leeds, a win against Borussia Dortmund to take Chelsea through to the quarterfinals. But I do want to see slightly more. I want to see him progress the ball a little bit more. I want him to try some of the more riskier passes. Maybe that's what he's being asked not to do. Maybe Potter wants him to be a little bit safer with the ball. There is also one other concern I've got. I don't know if he has a left foot. What I'll say is the next time you watch a Chelsea game, have a look, keep an eye. And there are certain passes which I think, like, if you were confident with your left foot, you would attempt. And I don't feel like he does. He'd try like an outside of the boot ball, or like a flick with his right foot. So keep an eye on that and let me know what you guys think. But honestly, I think it's too soon. But if I was being, if someone was forcing me where to put him, I'd put him in okay. But right now, it's too soon. From West London to South London now, Crystal Palace. And their season, if we're being quite honest, has been a bit it's been pretty below average, if we're being honest. Last year was so good for them, but this year it's not been amazing. They didn't really make many signings in the transfer window. They brought in Czech Decore as their most expensive signing in the summer, £21 million. And let's be quite honest, he's been really, really good. I mean, Aston Villa fans probably more recently aren't so keen on him, having been sent off against them and quite possibly having injured Kamara as well. I don't think they'll be his biggest fan. But look, the numbers speak for themselves with Decore. He is having to do so much work in that midfield for Crystal Palace. I feel so bad for him at times. He's getting no support around him. But Decore has made the 3rd most tackles in the Premier League this season with 59 and is 2nd in the list for interceptions. He tops the list for tackles and interceptions combined. I mean, the numbers he's doing defensively for Palace are really, really strong. If he can add and get developed to a player that can really progress the ball as well, pick it up and drive it forward, then he really could be a player that people start to look at. And he's obviously not necessarily super old. He's somebody that could be developed as well. But right now, for Palace, he is definitely going into good. I even kind of thought about maybe tinkering with put him into superstar, but he has that kind of potential. I honestly do think that. But right now, he's in good. He might be really the only kind of shining light for Palace this season. Maybe Elise as well. Everton now, and I think this one's a little bit tough because obviously their biggest signing in the summer was Amadou Onana for £33 million, which is a lot of money, especially at the time when they picked him up. He was kind of not necessarily the biggest name out there. It was a very interesting signing. and somebody that still had to do a lot of developing, I think. He was obviously unbelievable defensively, but going forward and progressing the ball was something that he needed to work on. And I do think he has done that. I don't think by any means he is the finished article. He is still super, super young, and that is why you see links to Arsenal, to Chelsea being interested in him. This season, I was going to put him in good. But as the list is kind of building, I think if Estupiñán is there, Decore is there, I think okay is probably where he needs to be, considering where Everton are near the relegation zone, how their season has been going this season. He's another one that's been kind of one of the only silver linings for them this year. And, you know, if the worst was to happen and they got relegated, somebody could pick up a really, really exciting player. Obviously, physicality, he's got in abundance, and defensively fantastically well. And if he can be developed, I really do think there's like a world-class midfielder in here, or an amazing midfielder in here. World class, you maybe leave that for a very short list of players. I do slightly worry now that he's being coached by Sean Dyche, that his development might slightly take a back step, especially whilst you're trying to get out of a relegation battle. Kind of understandable as well. But I know Everton fans love him. He's obviously played 22 games this season. Yeah, I think okay is probably a pretty good place to leave it. And we've just gone through two midfielders. We've got a third midfielder here for Fulham, because their most expensive signing was none other than João Palhinha. João Palhinha, who cost Fulham initially £15 million. With add-ons, I think that goes to around 20 million quid. I'm sorry, he's going in superstar. I actually think Fulham have probably been going under the radar a little bit this season. Obviously, there's been huge praise for the likes of Brentford, which I think is completely deserved. And Brighton, again, completely deserved. But I think a lot of people were really worried about Fulham at the beginning of the season. I know me in particular, obviously they hadn't made a lot of signings. They weren't looking particularly exciting, especially when Harry Wilson got injured, who was so crucial to them in the Championship the season before. They brought in Palhinha, and defensively, in midfield, I don't know if there's a better guy. The guy is making ridiculous numbers of tackles a game. He's won the most duels and made the most tackles in the Premier League this season, already over 100 tackles. He's averaging over 4 a game, which is ridiculous. I mean, the one worry you do have is he picks up a lot of yellow cards. He's already now serving right now his 2-match suspension for having 10 yellow cards accumulated. But he is really, really strong. He makes that Fulham midfield difficult. And that he is one of the main reasons why it is tough to play against Fulham. Without him there, you do see a big drop-off. But yeah, look, I think actually Fulham need a huge pat on the back. Willian is such a savvy signing, been so good. Solomon is now obviously back from his injury, proving to be a fantastic acquisition as well. But Palhinha, superstar. Again, I need a caveat as well. For the money they paid, £15 million, 20 million rising, superstar. Leicester City now, and their most expensive signing was Wout Faes in the summer. They paid £15 million for him. They then in January went and paid £15 million to Stoke City to get Harry Souttar on their books, another £15 million. And I've obviously gone for Faes because he's been in the league longer. I think he's easier to judge. And to be quite honest, it's poor. I think, look, for 15 million quid, you can't put him really in flop. I think getting your money's worth is a defender. That's for sure. He's just so error-prone. I do feel bad for him because he came in to replace Wesley Fofana, who is just a different level of defender. If Harry Souttar was here, I'd actually probably put him in okay. But Wout Faes, I think, it's tough. It's really tough. And obviously, Leicester don't have a lot of money to go and spend this season, or didn't have a lot of money to go and spend this season. And yeah, Wout Faes, I feel for him, but he's in poor. Leeds United now, and I struggled with this one. So the most expensive signing, and he was in the summer, was Brendan Aronson. Obviously, Jesse Marsch brought him in. He was a Jesse Marsch signing. There were quite a few of them, especially in January, but they then went and sacked him a couple of days later. But Aronson cost nearly £25 million, 24.7 to be exact. And he started the season pretty well. He looked quite exciting. He scored 1 goal. He's had 2 assists as well this season. But after the first couple of games, he really, really did drop off. In fact, his last goal contribution came back at the start of November before the World Cup. And his only goal came in their third game of this season. So, yeah, it started well, but the latter stages, especially the most recent, have been quite dire. I think West Ham fans grow a little bit frustrated with him because he is a workhorse. He works really hard for the Leeds team, works super hard in that press up top, but there's no output. And that's what Leeds really need, especially in their attacking players and when they cost as much as he did. Again, I do think it was someone that was wanted by Jesse Marsch, so it's going to be interesting how Gracia kind of works with him. But again, I was a little bit 50-50. Is he okay? Is he poor? I do kind of want to give him the benefit of the doubt and put him in okay, but I think, look, he was the guy that they signed and needed to hit the ground running and needed to find the back of the net to try and get output and to help their season. And that's not worked out. 1 goal, 2 assists really isn't enough. Look, I'm not expecting him to be the striker. He doesn't necessarily play there all the time as well. But it has been poor, if we're being completely honest. And hopefully he improves because, he runs. He works hard. But yeah, right now, I think he goes in poor. Liverpool now, and I'm going to put him in straight away. It's Darwin Núñez, the most expensive. I think he's around 64.2 million pounds, rising to 85. And he's going in good. I know he's been a laughing stock sometimes. I know he's been the meme for people to kind of take the mick out of. But especially, I think, post-World Cup, he's kind of found his place. I think the signing of Cody Gakpo has really kind of taken the pressure off him a little bit and kind of split it down the middle between two of them, where they're both kind of now dealing with half the eyeballs. 14 goals and 4 assists in just 21 starts this season is really good. It is. He can be a little bit chaotic going forward, but I actually think when you play against Liverpool, he's always a threat. His pace alone is always a threat for him. He can kind of make something, not necessarily out of nothing, but like he can do something quite incredible. You're like, oh my God, what has he done? The goal against Real Madrid was super impressive. His game against Newcastle was super impressive. I do think he is starting to find his feet now in that Liverpool front line. And I think he's been good. I do. I think it's hard to argue. Yeah, he's had moments which have been funny and you can kind of make a joke out of, but he really has been coming into his own. And I think for him, he goes into good. Let me know what you guys think, though, of Darwin Núñez. Where would he go in this table for you? I think he's been better than okay. He's obviously not been superstar, that's for sure. But good is where he is for me. And let me know what you guys think of all of the players in this list. Where should they be? Manchester City now, and let's be super quick. It's Erling Haaland, obviously. He's going in superstar. He cost them £51.2 million. He scored 33 goals already. He's got 22 in the Premier League. He's not to mention he's also got 5 assists as well. He's incredible. When you add how good he's been for the fee that was paid, even though everyone knew he was going to be a starlet, maybe not Rory. He's been incredible. Look, people say, does he actually make City any better? I think it's kind of a silly question. Maybe it's up for debate for some people. But him himself has been a superstar signing. He really has. He's going to break the Premier League record, guys. It's outrageous. To the red half of Manchester, maybe it's a little bit easier doing this after losing 7-0 to Liverpool. Their most expensive signing was none other than Antony, who they got from Ajax late on in the window. They obviously got pushed the full way to spend the full amount. £85 million he cost them. It's a flop, man. It's a flop. And I think the fee comes into a big part here. Look, what I mentioned earlier, it sounds mad to compare Anthony without Fez. He's in poor because of the fee. £15 million, you can kind of be like, look, you kind of got your money's worth, maybe a little bit less than. Antony, United have got nowhere near their money's worth. I think the thing with Antony, right, he's really good at one thing, cutting on that left, that kind of half space and curling it top left. He scored kind of 3 goals, similar situations, but that's it. And when you're spending that price on someone like him, who helps out a little bit defensively, you need more from that. You need more for him. You even need him to be creative. You need him to be willing to take on players and successfully dribbling past players very often. He's not doing that. I think he's made 9 key passes, which is just passes that lead to a shot, and that's not good enough. Especially when you consider before the Liverpool game that actually United have been pretty good this season, especially recently, winning the Carabao Cup. Rashford, who's been incredible. He is really kind of starting to make you question what Erik ten Hag was kind of doing, wanting to bring him in. I think it's tough because Erik ten Hag's been amazing this season. You look at Lisandro Martinez, another guy that he wanted, was brilliant. But half the reason that United couldn't go and get Gakpo in January is because they spent so much money on Antony. I mean, put it this way. By this time in his first season, Lucas Paqueta for Arsenal already had 13 goal contributions for the Gunners, which... You look at him now, he's not even at the club. He's on loan and probably looks like his future at Arsenal is not going to be one at all. So for Antony, I still think there is a future for him. I'm not going to call him right now as like he is done and that's it. But what we've seen so far, he has been a flop for United. I think it's hard to kind of argue against that. I'd like to know your guys' opinions in the comments below. But Antony is a flop for now. Newcastle United spent a lot of money in the summer, especially on one striker called Alexander Isak. And he's going in okay. They spent £63 million for him. There are arguments maybe he could fit in the too soon category. He's only started 5 Premier League games. He was injured as well. He missed over 100 days because of injury. I mean, if I'm sitting here and I'm saying that Isak is okay because he's only started 5 games, but he was injured, whereas actually Enzo Fernandez has started 7 games. Maybe I do put Enzo into okay as well, where I had him earlier. Maybe that is fair enough. But anyway, back to Isak. He's had 5 Premier League starts. 3 goals isn't too bad. I do think it is maybe a little bit too soon to kind of be looking at him. But it's been okay. I do think there is possibly a really good striker in the future. He sometimes can be like this. I remember obviously at Real Sociedad, he had that huge goal scoring season. Next season, dropped off massively. Obviously, then went to Newcastle. Maybe next year is the big one for him. We'll see. But for now, he's been okay. On to Nottingham Forest now, who spent a hell of a lot of money in the summer, and a lot of that was spent on Morgan Gibbs-White. £42.5 million they paid to get him from Wolverhampton. Obviously, the previous season, he'd been on loan in the Championship, had been playing fantastically well. I mean, for Forest, he's easily the best player in the squad. Still super young. He's got 2 goals and 5 assists for the side already. He's played kind of everywhere for them, along the midfield, along the front line. Has obviously recently been finding a lot of success with Johnson as well. I think he's a fantastic player, and he's only going to get better. I think he's somebody that we'll see maybe be looked at possibly by clubs in the future. He's really helped Forest kind of get a little bit of leeway from that relegation zone. They're 4 points off of the drop with a game in hand as well, currently sitting 14th in the Premier League. I think we'll probably have to wait till the end of the season to see exactly how this transfer fully works out. But right now, I think he's going to go into good. Yeah, for sure, good. Southampton now, and their most expensive signing was in January. It was Sulemana for £22 million. Going to be super quick, guys. It's too soon. It's too soon to judge him. He's only played 4 games. He backed himself. He said in an interview saying, I've got any attributes of a striker, I've got them. But yeah, it's too soon for him. On to our next one, Spurs. And their most expensive signing was Richarlison for £60 million. Straight into flop. Straight into flop. I mean, he's yet to score a Premier League goal, guys. I know Spurs fans like him. I know they like that he's kind of determined and aggressive, but he's yet to score a Premier League goal. Like, come on. At least with Antony, he's scored 3. Richarlison hasn't. I know as well he's not been played necessarily in his ideal position, but he would have known that, right? When they've got Harry Kane up top, who's obviously going to be playing there every time. He has only started 7 Premier League games as well. He's made 10 appearances from the bench. Obviously, he has had several injuries as well. Went to the World Cup. But yeah, like, it's a flop. Right now, maybe in the future, it could get better. But for £60 million, you do want some kind of output, especially when Heung-min Son's obviously kind of fallen off a cliff as well. And Richarlison really hasn't picked up the slack. West Ham United really tried to move on this season and kind of take the next steps and cement themselves as a European contender. One of their steps to do that was by signing Lucas Paqueta for going up to £51 million. I think initially it's 36 million. And he's been poor this year. And West Ham have been poor this year, right? I mean, they're playing right now as we're recording this in Cyprus in Europe. But they've really struggled this year. There's always been the argument with David Moyes of when he does finally get the kind of quality players like Lucas Paqueta, he doesn't quite seem to know what to do with them. He's been playing at 10 at times for West Ham this season. That's not necessarily his ideal position. Probably a little bit further back could be where you really do find the best for him. He's kind of played at DM sometimes, centre mid and at 10, whilst trying to kind of figure out, I guess Moyes has been trying to figure out where his best kind of use is. He's got 2 goals and 2 assists in 16 games or 16 starts. He has been better kind of recently. I don't know. I think this is somebody who can improve massively. It's somebody that was rumoured to be being looked at by much bigger clubs. Remember Arsenal? Arsenal were after him in the summer, and in the end he ended up at West Ham. How different his future could have been, right, if he had gone all the way to Arsenal. Instead Arsenal went for Vieira. But yeah, he's going in poor. Last but certainly not least, we're ending it on a positive one. Wolverhampton Wanderers Matheus Nunes cost them £38 million. They could possibly be doubling that come the summer. I mean, he has been outrageous this year. Started the season as well, particularly impressive. I think he's going to go in good. I was thinking possibly about superstar for him. I mean, I put Paulinho there. I do think he really does edge out of all of them the most to kind of going in between. If there was a halfway mark, I could possibly do that. But I do think he probably fits into good. I mean, he progresses the ball insanely well. He's still obviously very young, only 24 years old, can be developed super well, which is why you can see the likes of Liverpool so interested in him. Jurgen Klopp working with him could be really, really impressive. He is yet to register a goal. He's only got 1 assist to his name. Not necessarily easy in the squad that he plays for, especially with Lopetegui now as manager. They're not necessarily scoring lots of goals, are they? And it's not necessarily his role either, I think, to be scoring too many goals. But yeah, I think overall he's had a really good season. He has had a good season. And it wouldn't shock me if he possibly moves on come the summer. So there we have it, guys. That is our tier list for ranking every club's record signing this season. Let me know what you guys thought of it in the comments below. Do you disagree? Do you agree? Where would you have put some of these players? I think overall it's fair enough. I'll be interested to hear your opinions down in the comments below. If you've enjoyed this and want to see more Football Daily content, then click on screen right now for more FD content. And as always, guys, don't forget to like and subscribe.